He's trying to see, just yell at me. He's silly. Okay, can you see it? Is that better? All right, now I had copied that from Canvas. I created my new class file. I'm gonna select all and paste. Now, if you zoom in on that class file a little bit, let's take a look at it and see what we've got, because we had a few different versions of this thing. You can see how that would be an issue at work, that you'd want to make sure that everybody was using the right version. And in C#2 and in some other classes, they'll talk about things to take care of that. For now, just realize that that would be an issue. So in this class, we have our private class fields. We have a constructor that requires all of the different class fields. Ooh, it seems to be missing something. With me, make this change. This.artist equal artist. So, you know, some versions of our class have had the name and artist, and some haven't. We're going to make sure we're all on the same page here with this one.
You want us to refactor that?
No, just add it, please, like I did. Now, when you look at the next constructor, you're going to see that it's a default no-arg constructor. We set some default values. So we do have a no-arg constructor. We have one method in our class, which is the toString, and it's giving us some meaningful information back. Our class is missing properties. Do you see any properties? Or public properties? So let's create them. Come to your private class variables, your data, and select them all. When you've got them selected, click on the paintbrush, the format selection to the left, and choose encapsulate fields, but still use field. And that should generate all of the public properties for all of our class fields. Does that work okay for everybody? Got them? Got them? Got them? The little paintbrush showed up for everybody and everybody was able to get it? Great. I like coding that way. Okay, so now our class, I think, is in pretty good shape. It looks like we have all the pieces we need. So we should be able to go back to our form. Huh? Okay. Yellow light, that's what we need. We need like stoplights on each of you guys' computers. Yellow light, yellow light.
I think Mrs. Marks would love that.
We should invent those, shouldn't we? Because that would be super handy. We could have like little teeny stick-on things. Yeah, just stuck to them. I think that would be super handy.
Have a little boards in front of the computer screen.
Oh yeah, we could have it all networked. You're okay now? Great, you guys. Thanks. Okay, well, I was ready to leave our class, but we're really not ready because we need to fix our namespace. Because, you know, we just copied this in from God knows where. So let's go to our program.cs file and get our namespace. Come on, you silly thing. Zoom.
What are we changing? The program.
Yeah, go to your program.cs, grab your namespace, and then go back to that audio CD that we copied in and paste it. So our namespace is consistent. Now, if our namespace is different, remember, it's not going to give us any errors or anything. We're just not going to be able to see that audio CD class from our form class. So when we try to use it, we won't be able to. It won't be working properly. Let's check. I want to go back to my form, and I want to add some code for the OK button. So let's double click our OK button. Now when somebody clicks OK on this button, right now the way our application is going to work is we have data to save. So we have audio data to save. We're ready to save it. Let's create an empty audio CD instance to save that data. So I want to create an audio CD, and let's call that, yes, sir?
You lost me for a second. This is on our little submit button.
Yes, our OK button.
My form is
Okay,
showing
so
up, but your form is not showing.
Same difference.
The form I made is showing up, but the form you have up there is not showing.
On your screen?
Yes.
Are you on the Zoom session?
Yes.
Is everybody else seeing it okay?
What is it?
My stuff? Am I sharing okay?
Yeah, I'm seeing it fine.
You are? Redo your Zoom session. It sounds like it's lost its connection or something.
Oh, it looks like it's current to me.
Does it?
Where is the pink form?
Well, I'm not looking at it right now. I'm looking at this code.
Oh, can I get it from my code?
What's that?
The pink form?
You don't, what do you want from it?
I just want to view it. Can I run it?
Uh-huh, you could run it.
Okay, that's what's not happening.
Well, come with us and let's do some code. So double click on your OK button to create some code, and then we'll run them here in a second. So in our OK button, we want to create a new instance. So I'm going to call this instance CD. And it's going to be a new audio CD. We're going to leave it empty. It's going to use our no-R constructor. It's going to end up with all of those default names and everything. So now we want to display the audio CD properties in our text boxes. So our text box, oops, hang on, I've got to fix my text box ID name. I missed that one because I can't see it. Hang on. Look at it. See how it's above my form? Notice that things like that can happen. It's kind of like a PowerPoint. It didn't have room, but it fitted up there somehow anyways. Yeah, there isn't much. We're watching me try to fix this field name. It wasn't really showing on my form, but it's there. Okay, so I want to set my text box ID field, text property, equal to this instant CD's ID property. And then I want to set our artist text property equal to this instance artist. And we're just going to set all of our text boxes. I'll do the name equal to our instance name, the number of tracks, the quantity, and finally the cost. Now everything was going so good. How come I have all these red squigglies now? They're not strings. So do we need to convert them to strings? Can I just put, you know, I have this all backwards. You guys, you can shoot me. Let's change all this. I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, but
They are backwards. It is just, I kept doing it thinking, something's wrong. We actually, no, I don't have it backwards. Hang on. I'm having a brain lapse. We have typed data into our text boxes and we want to save it in our CD. So backwards it is. I want my instance ID to be set equal to my text box. Sorry about that. I don't ever think I've ever done that. I've done lots of other ones, but not that one. So switch them around. Because the data that we want to keep is in our text boxes where our user has typed.
I don't know, so that you want to answer to, right? You convert the number of tracks.
What?
You don't want to convert that into the time, right? So
Yes. So let's put that in. Now, we would want to convert our num tracks to an integer, right? We'll do 2int32. And you can tell your helpful thing there kind of messes it up a little bit when we do that convert. I'm going to try wrapping the parentheses around this first and see if it's any better. Now our quantity we can convert to an integer also, to int32. Yep, that did do better. If you put the parentheses around the text box .text name first and then type the convert stuff, it doesn't destroy it as bad. Now we want to convert for our cost to what? It says decimal. Perfect. Now we don't really have any way to put our data into that list yet like we're going to. So let's just display a message box with this audio CD information so that we know we got it updated properly. So I'm going to do messagebox.show, our instance CD, and we want to use the toString method. So now we're ready to try it. So if you're ready, go ahead and try it. See how it works as you move around on your form. And we're going to have a few little things we probably want to fix. So I start out, my form is blank. I'm going to type my ID. I'll do an artist. Now, does yours, yeah, if you notice, mine jumps over to the right on these numeric data fields. That's because numeric data should be aligned right, and that's just a standard. So if we need to, let's update those fields. First, let's continue trying some stuff, though. I'm going to type things in everywhere. Click OK. Make sure I get my message box. Looks good. It's got all the information from my text boxes that were put into the audio CD class. We know they made it because they got pulled out of that audio CD class for our message box.
So why is the numbers on the right of your text boxes, while online they're on the left side.
That's what I was just talking about, because numbers should always be right aligned.
She's saying there's a property in the text box.
So we need to go fix that. Let's go. Are you guys ready to fix it? Or do you want to try some other stuff first?
If I could have a moment. to catch up.
Sure. You bet.
Can you close out your,
Okay.
form?
Okay.
Just,
Not a problem.
So one thing I just noticed,
Mm-hmm.
when I tried to hit submit, it told me that there was an error, and I could hit continue, and it would let it, and it would try and plow through anyways, and it did just fine. But it said that the input I put into one of my text boxes was incorrect for a string input. It didn't want to tell me which one either.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on and we'll test that, because we're going to have to fix some things.
Also,
Let's get that fixed.
I should probably do that message box bit.
Yeah, make sure you got the message box, all this stuff, and then we'll get some of those errors taken care of. We have a few for sure. How you doing? Good, good. Ready? Ready? Let's look at our form. So in our form, we want these numeric data fields. Select all three of them. And then in your properties, we want to find the text align property and make sure and set it to the right. It's a thing like with accountants and stuff, they won't even really believe something is a number if it's not aligned to the right. They'll be like, I can't trust this application. So we have to be really careful to do that. That's just the way accounting is always done. So used to that. Text align.
Make sure you don't. I highlighted my something else.
Oh yeah, you will have to have only text boxes selected
Yeah,
to be able to
highlighted
see
my
that.
label and it just caught the tail,
Just barely. And you can't be clicked on events, because if you're clicked on events, you're not going to see any of your properties. So these are all good ways to figure out how to move around, get where you can't find something. So those look pretty good. So our other problem is this numeric data. We know we can't just say convert these text boxes to numbers. What if somebody typed the letter A in one of them? Let's try it. Does it crash? Do I? It should crash. There, it crashed. So just the same as it would crash when we're doing a console app, it's going to crash when we're doing a forms-based app, saying you're trying to convert non-numeric data. So we need to make sure that data is numeric. So let's stop. Now at this point, before we start our next thing, is everybody okay? You guys all doing all right? Now in the 8 o'clock class this morning, at this point, I had to send out some zip files of this project for a few people. So you guys are doing good. Nobody's that messed up. We need to start over. That's good. All right, so what we're going to do is figure out a way to edit these text boxes. So I want you to go to the Google, to the ultimate source, and search on the interwebs and see what you can find. C# form text box. How can you make it be only numeric data?
C# form text box only numbers.
Yeah, try whatever searches you want, because you might find something better with your words. It looks like those Stack Overflow ones pop up no matter really how you format your search.
I would say that is an example of Google doing the job correctly.
Exactly. That's what we want. Now, one thing I see right away that they mention is we could use a numeric up down. So don't forget about that. That's one reason you have to use that numeric up down on your pizza app, because you don't have to do validation with a numeric up down. It's going to be numeric. So that's one good way to make sure that your data is numeric. We didn't do that. So we have to find something else.
Why are we not just doing try parse?
So what would happen, where would we do that, try parse? We wouldn't be able to ask for another input. But that's why I want to ask you about it and think about it, because it's a really good question.
It probably wouldn't be a terrible idea to put that try parse in anyways. I would actually probably put it in the constructor, because that's kind of the last point of failure where something like that is likely to happen. You know, have it as a last point of failure where, oh hey, this thing you passed me, it's not a number for some reason. Let's just plug a number in.
But remember, when we're working with a form, we don't have that ability to say, hey, that thing you gave me is not a number, unless we stop our execution completely to redisplay that form. And we don't have a command that does that. We could do a message box, but then our code is going to continue executing. So we would just have to be aware.
What you could do is have the message box do the try catch thing to see if it works correctly. And if it doesn't, instead enter a message box that says, hey, you didn't enter it incorrectly and you goofed up.
Try it. Yes, sir, ma'am. Let's see some. I want some sample code that you found on Google, and let's have different people take over so that we can look at some different options here. Because you guys are right. There are so many different options, different choices that we have. I do want to consider them. So find something or type it in our program so that we have something to look at, to consider. So it'll kind of be for your consideration. I think you should try this. Okay, let me know if you found one that you want to show everybody, and I'll ask you to take over the Zoom session. I want to do one while you guys are looking. I'm going to take the number of tracks and put in try parse.
I keep seeing the same bit of code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want a remote? Take over this thing?
I mean, I can, but that's probably the same thing everybody else is seeing.
Let's see. I'll give it to you. Okay, go ahead and share, Alex, and show us. And let's see if this is what everybody else is looking at.
I mean, that's
That looks like VB.net.
Yep.
Okay, so it says C# also? Looks good. All righty. What you got?
So, yeah, that's VB.
Okay.
But this is C#, and it's kind of like an example of the entire, like a basic program that runs. And right here you've got like a regular text box, I guess. And then down here you have the text box that would only accept.
Couple of things. First of all, let's look at these. There's two different event procedures here. It's a really good example. This event procedure runs when the text changes, right? So anybody typing a letter, any sort of change is going to make that event run, all right? This one down here says text box 1 underscore key press. So again, pressing any sort of keystroke is going to make that event run. So is it going to run once for the entirety of what the user typed? No, it's just going to run over and over every time they type anything, right? So let's try that one.
Do you want me to stop sharing our key?
No, copy it for us and paste it into Visual Studio so everybody can try to grab that same thing.
It sounds like the short version, if I may try and summarize,
Uh-huh.
if I'm on the same page, is there's an event on the text box that says whenever somebody presses a key, right? Or is that or alternatively, whenever the text changes?
Right, we have both of those different events.
So whenever the text changes, we'll say,
Mhm.
check to see if it's a number, and if it's not a number, then clear it or whatever. Clear it or tell the user they were wrong or whatever you want to happen.
Right, let's get it in our program. So are you going to copy that? Let me get to the same site.
It's on the chat.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, sir. That's what I need. He's got it out there for us. Well, I will share mine so you don't have to. He's doing good. And I'm going to put it in my NumTracks text box. Now, hang on before you do that. Let me comment this out. I got to go to my form. Because if I just look at my form and double click on a text box, it's going to create the text changed event. We want the key press event, at least for this example. So click on your number of tracks text box. When you've clicked on your number of tracks text box, use your properties window to switch to events. Find the key press event, and then double click in the key press event, and it will create that event for you. And then we're ready to copy in that if statement from Alex, which is great. Okay, so what's this thing saying? Like Donovan was saying, it's going to be checking every single character we type to make sure it's valid. The way it's checking is, it's using each character type as a char data type. For char data types, there are some predefined conditions, like is control. So we can determine if this key, e.keyChar is the key that was pressed, is this key that was pressed a control key? Or is it a digit? So in our if statement, every single one of these has a not in front of them. So if it's not a control key, and it's not a digit, and it's not a period, we're going to specify in this handled Boolean that things are not handled. If it is not any of these, we're going to say, yep, we handled it. It's fine. We can use that character in our code. So let's run it and see how this works.
Cool.
It just blocks it completely. So this is a way of doing it. I'm going to go to my number of tracks here. So notice what they're saying. If you try to type letters, you just can't, because it was not handled. It said, no, I don't handle that kind of input. It just rejected it. But you should be able to type numbers.
You do 2 comma, that is 2
You can't do a comma. It should handle the period.
It does.
It does.
So it's not validated on that.
How so?
Because there is more than one dot.
The other example that he showed us that had the, oh, now I can't even think of what was in there. The regular expressions is what you would do to make sure that's not a case, and we won't learn regular expressions until C#2. So you are right, you can do more, but not right now. So this is good enough for right now. So when you look at editing like this is one of those things that goes back to that user training. You want it to be perfect, but what are the trade-offs, you know? So we could use that regular expression.
And there's also something else. That same site that has two different sets of code for C#, and one of them is like regular digits, and then another one is with decimal salting.
So lots of different things we could do. But you're right, we could still trick it into being messed up. But most of our users aren't going to do that, you know, by accident they might. But yes, we can go even further and make it even better. All right, so we've got a good one there on that. Did anybody find any other good ones? I like this one. What about this one? Take a look at this code.
So just get rid of
What's going on in this one?
Oh, this one is decimal.
Am I shared?
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
So I need to cut this out of the ones with integers in it. Okay.
I'm just thinking of all sorts of, it says I'm shared.
You're good.
You're good now.
It just got stuck. Okay. It's like, all right, so in this one, it's less systeming. Is that a good way to say it? It's less kind of system programmer-like that other one. In this one, it's more loopy, where we're saying, okay, the text box is changed. We know it's a string, so we're going to be taking the whole string in this one, not just one character. But when we start, the very first time we run it, it will just be one character. The second time it'll be 2 characters, then 3 characters, then 4. So as things get added to this text box, this string that we're evaluating will keep getting longer. We'll go into this for loop, and we'll do whatever we need to make sure that it's a valid number. Let's try this one in one of our other ones. So I'll put this code in. So I want you to have some different examples. So let's put this, I'm going to close out of my executing form, and I want to do number in inventory. So I just double-clicked number in inventory, my quantity, because I do want the text changed event procedure. So notice, first of all, this one uses the default event for a text box, which could be considered by some people to make it easier to use. I'm going to have a text string, and it's going to be equal to my text box quantity dot text. So whatever's been typed in there so far, I'm going to save in that string. I'm going to take that string and trim off any unnecessary spaces. If after I trim off those unnecessary spaces, there's nothing left, I'm just going to return. We're going to go into a for loop then, controlled by an integer named I. And within our for loop, we're going to do an if statement. It's going to look a lot like that one we were looking at in that other example. If not, char dot is number, and the char that we're looking at is the current element at position I of our string.
But that's a key scheme.
Oh, I wondered why it was being a jerk. Okay. If it's being bad like that, I'm going to do a message box dot show. Please enter a valid number. Now, in their example, they take the text box quantity dot text and clear it out. We could add a little bit more to that, and we could even make our text box quantity have the focus of our form, meaning that's where the cursor would be, and it would be waiting for us to enter a new quantity. I'm going to press return there. So here's another example. Let's try it. I've got an error here. Oh, no, it's just like you could make that a for each. Well, I would rather not. So I'm going to run this. Now my number of tracks is working, blocking me from typing anything invalid. My number in inventory, if I type a bad letter, I'm going to get this message box. What if I go really far and then type that letter? It spaced out everything I typed so far, didn't it? So notice the difference between these different techniques. Decide which one you want to use. I probably know which one you want to use, and keep it. Now, because you have this code, this sample, although there's always room for improvement and we could always make it more perfect, you could use this in pretty much any application that you were working on. So if you get to the final and you've got some data elements that have to be numeric, you put this in and now you've got your numeric data checking done. You don't have to worry about anything else because there's no way any non-numeric data can get through. Does that one make sense to you? Are they okay? You all right? Okay, let's save everything. Now, one other thing that I would like to change, when I look at our form, I'd like it if I could just press enter on the form after I typed in all this data. So let's see how things are working with our cursor movement. We saw last time that we have to be concerned about that tab sequence. Let's run this and see how our tab sequence is looking. I'm sitting at my ID. If I type that and press tab, I go to my artist, which is where I want to go, and then the name, and then the number of tracks, number in inventory, my cost, and then finally my buttons. Now, is yours working okay like that? Let's double check it, because what if it's not? You would go to your first text box and go to your properties and make sure your tab index is set to 0. And I'm going to update mine because they're pretty high. So I want this ID to be 0. I want my artist to be 1. Notice how Visual Studio stays on this tab index field, so it makes it really easy for us to go through all of these and just fix them real fast. We don't have to do, whoops, unless you do that. We don't have to do a bunch of moving around. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So much better. I'll set my OK button to 6. Now, I'd like for people, like I said, to be able to press enter and have that OK button execute its event procedure. We create a relationship like that on our form. So click on your form to select it. And if you're sorted by alphabetical order, up at the very top, find the Accept button property. And we want our Accept button to be set to our OK button. Let's run it now if you got that. Should move a lot quicker than if it was all messed up. You can just press enter and have it be done. Now, if I want to type in another CD's information, I want to clear everything out. Has everybody found the accept button? Click on your form, and in your form properties, find your accept button. Got it, got it?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'd like my reset button to kind of be the opposite. So let's code it. Double click on your reset button. Our reset button is really simple. We just want to take every one of those text boxes and clear them out. Set them to blank. Bless you. Okay, so I'm just going to set all my text boxes back to blanks. And of course, if we had some radio buttons or things like that, we would need to set them all to unchecked, whatever it is that we're working with in this application. After we've cleared everything out, I want to make sure the cursor is in the right place. So I want to use the focus method to set focus back on our text box ID, our first text box.
We should have 6 total, right?
Yes, 6.
Well, not focused.
6 text boxes. So let's put a comment in there. Clear out the form controls. Try running it if you've got it. You should be able to add a CD. There's my CD. Then I should be able to click reset and have it clear everything out, ready to enter a new one. If you enter a new one, you should see its data display in the message box if you enter its data. So we said our OK button was our accept button. Let's make our reset button be our cancel button. And that means if somebody presses escape, we'd execute that cancel button code. So let's put that in our form. So again, we want to be looking at our form properties. And in your form properties, find the cancel button. For the cancel button, we want to choose our BTN reset. Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at the properties for the form itself.
Yep. Because it's the form itself that has a button that runs when you press enter or a button that runs when you press escape. And so that's the property we're setting.
Here's one that says enter.
No, accept button and cancel button. Are you looking at your properties for your form?
Yeah.
Make sure you're not looking at the lightning bolt, the methods, the events. So I like to switch you back and forth so that you remember you have to switch back and forth. You can stare at that for a really long time and not figure out why you're not seeing stuff.
Okay, here it is. So
I know, I know.
So we should be able to just set that cancel button to our button reset.
Yes.
And then the accept button property to our button sub.
Yep.
And it'll just treat those keys as being held button.
Yep.
Escape and enter respectively.
Yep. You got it. Let's try it. Try our escape key. I've tried my enter key a bunch. If you haven't had a chance, you want to test it, put in some information. I'm caps locked here. Now, if you click your escape key, you should see all your stuff disappear. So it did our reset.
You set a button to close out the whole thing?
No, there's this one up here. They already gave you one. Yes, we'll do that. We haven't yet, though. We'll actually do it through a menu option for what we're going to be working with. Do what? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a most efficient way? Is there really such a thing as good coding?
So let's go. All right, we've got this. You guys have got everything here now. We've said that if they are trying to add, am I looking at ours or theirs? I can't tell whose I'm looking at. Okay, close that one. Too many projects open. All right, so when somebody presses our OK button, we're creating an instance of an audio CD. We can only see that audio CD instance in our add button. It would be nice, maybe, if we could get to it through all of the methods on our form, so that when we create an update button or a delete button or whatever it is we need, we can get to that CD instance. So let's make that into a class level field. Copy the first two words of it. And then I want to get rid of that audio CD keyword there for a moment. And scroll up to the top of our class. And we're going to create a class level or instance variable. So just like we could create a class level variable in a regular class, we can do that in a form class. So now this instance CD that we're going to be working with is going to be available to us anywhere in our form class. So if we decide we need to access that in our reset button, we'll be able to.
This doesn't seem like it would work if we're planning to create a bunch of instances of this class, though.
Oh, it will. We'll see. So good thinking, though, because we're
Like,
thinking good.
Just off the top of my head, if, for instance, we were making a list and having them put in stuff for different objects.
So what we'll do is we'll create this one instance. We'll put it in the list. Then we'll use that same one to create another instance and put it in the list.
Okay,
So our old
got
one
it.
is going to be saved in the list. But yeah, we'll only be using this one for this form for our maintenance. And then that way we can be really consistent in this form and always use that same instance of the CD. So let's create a form load. Sure, you bet.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, mine's just not.
So make sure, a couple of things. we have to specify our data type of audio CD before the name. And then down here, when we actually instantiate an audio CD, we cannot specify that audio CD data type because we already have. Only specify that data type once for that variable.
Oh, yeah, you must have accidentally got rid of the parentheses for it.
You see it? Great.
Just a typo.
Okay, so let's create a form load. And in our form load, we'll create that blank CD instance and display its properties. So to create a form load, I'm going to go back to my form designer and just double click on a blank part of my form anywhere. Now in our form load, let's create an instance of our instance CD. So now we've got a default. Our default audio CD instance. And now I want to populate my text boxes with the information from that instance CD. So now I think I am going the right direction.
We're trying to update the text boxes so that they say whatever the CD is.
Right.
As opposed to trying to make the CD say whatever the text box is.
Exactly.
If we have to use 6 different forms for this, I feel like 3 probably would have been enough for the sake of just showing things.
Probably you could get away with a few less.
I keep reading the dot text. I'm like, why are you mad at me? Oh, yeah. If we use less, we wouldn't just look at it typing.
Yeah, I know you want that typing practice. I want to make sure that you can get all of that in.
I'm sure there's a unique word about typing.
Plus, you know, it encourages those people who haven't had typing class to find one.
I'm sure there's a unique word about typing.
Probably. I don't know if there's a Udemy. Might be a little. I hadn't looked on Udemy.
My problem is in the instance.cd section,
Uh-huh.
I keep trying to type text
Yep.
instead of the value.
We need to type, convert those to strings.
Now, we're just going to take these to strings to display in our text box. So we don't have to do any fancy converting like we did the other direction because we're not letting anybody type these. We're just displaying them. So they should already be valid. I have found all sorts of typing classes for my husband. He doesn't seem to be interested in any of them. If you guys can find a good one, let me know.
Typing classes?
Trying.
I didn't know there were typing classes.
He needs to learn to type.
I just feel like type really fast with 2 fingers.
Some people can.
It sounds like this.
No, it just sounds just like regular typing. You just can't tell the difference because that's how fast it is.
Ever been to the
No, it sounds way louder.
Okay, run it.
One time I was there, it's like I was in and out. They typed so fast. I bet. Which is surprising because it's the DMV.
That's not the reason they're slow now.
Now, when I run
My
it,
experience with DMV was actually relatively painless.
I should see all of our default values for our NOR constructor. So sure enough, because we created that CD instance using our default NOR constructor, we've got all those values. If we want to create a new one, we can click reset and type in our information.
Or if you don't enter anything, it gives you a bad error.
Yeah.
Oh, for our numbers.
Yeah.
For our numbers. So we have to worry about that, huh? There's definitely some updating we can do. Great. Let's add some comments here.
Oh, well. I actually kind of like it, to be honest.
I just realized something.
What's that?
Your two-string method doesn't have the message part for the quantity of it. It's just,
Yeah, we can fix some things. Okay, let's put some comments in here. Let's finish this up for today. All right, so in our class, we've got our instance variable, our OK button. We have our audio data to save. We create an empty audio CD. We put the properties into the text boxes. Do I need to fix that comment? Update audio CD data with data from text boxes. I was thinking backwards then, and my comment reflects that. So as I scroll on, then we've got our text changed and key press events, our reset button. You know, this reset button has all of this code here where we're clearing everything out. Let's create a method for that. Let's create our own private void method called reset form. And I want all of this code moved to that method. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to paste it. And then in our reset button click event, let's call our reset form new method that we just created. And the reason I want to do that is because I'd like to call that same method after we display our message box. So in our OK button, if you can find that event procedure, we do our messagebox.show. After that, let's call our new reset form method to clear everything out.
Can you scroll to where you declared the reset form function?
Uh-huh.
Or method, I guess.
Sure.
It is very easy to mix those two words up.
That's all right. I know it is. Okay, so test your application after the message box displays now. It should clear out all of your text boxes.
I have an idea.
What's that?
Why not, instead of just erasing everything in the reset method,
Uh-huh.
reset it to the default values instead of empty values?
We could do that.
To clear it so that you can type in the boxes, because people like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the logic is not wrong. We're using stuff
Yeah, and it's kind of a quandary. Do you have placeholders like that or do you not? Because for web apps, it's like getting to be kind of standard to have placeholder data. For Windows Forms app, it's always been kind of standard to not. So we might see those kind of things change and people want things to work differently. So definitely an option that you could do if you wanted to, you know, and that's what your users wanted to do. Okay, look good? Now, you guys have done great things. You've taken your class, which had, like Kayla pointed out, more data elements than we actually needed. Huh? It's got that extra typing experience. And you figured out how to display all that on your form, how to gather all the information from the form and put it into the class. Now, this is pretty basic stuff. When you go to do it yourself, you could still run into some confusion without a doubt, you know? That's why we use so many different examples. Next week, we'll take it where we add this into our list box. We'll add a menu, a Windows menu item, so you can see how some of those last controls work. We have one more topic, which is reading text files and writing text files before your final, or before we start working on your final project. So that's what we'll be doing. You're finally get to read my text files, and we'll do that with our.
You mean finally? I've already been doing.
I know you've been doing it,
Screw
so
you.
we won't have to worry about it. You'll be all set. But I think this is good. Let me know if you're having any problems, and we'll fix it. You're welcome to stay and have some lab time, or get out of here and start your never-ending weekend that you guys get this week.
The final going up a written session like all other tests was going in, okay.
It'll be one of each.
I'm doing this one for my weekend. I think by OCC policy there has to be a